Okay, welcome into another episode of the Clapp Trap. We got some interesting things to talk about today. We are going to be joined by my friend Andrew later on, Patriots_Andrew for you guys if you followed along with the show in the past. We bring him on for Patriots stuff, obviously, you can tell by the name. And we are going to just do a little bit of a roundup of kind of things going around the other leagues, the Red Sox. I know that I didn't really talk about the Celtics yet, just terrible stuff. Not really going to get into that too much, but it is interesting kind of what's going around in the league. Obviously, at this point, the Nuggets versus the Heat, things going on with players being cut from their teams like Chris Paul. That's an interesting storyline. But I also want to talk about the Red Sox a little bit here. Now, obviously, if you followed along with the show, I'm not the biggest of the Red Sox guys. When it comes to it, I will dive into the season more as we get further into the summer, just because that is really the only sports to talk about other than Patriots mini camps and OTAs and things like that, which we dive into heavily in this episode with Andrew on. So it's a heavy Patriots episode. We're just kind of starting things off here, talking about some other things that are going on. And I just want to get into this Red Sox thing. And I know that also I'm pre-recording this thing on Thursday before the Red Sox game happens with the main topic that I want to talk about here. And that's all right. I'm driving down to Philadelphia tomorrow. So, for those of you who care, nobody does. But I will be in the traffic. I will be on my way down there for a wedding. And hopefully none of this Nova Scotia fires and smog and poor air quality is going to mess with us while we're down there, my wife and I. We'll see how that goes. Anyways, so I'm not really talking about the game because, like I said, I'm pre-recording this, so I won't be able to talk about the outcome. But I do want to question what the heck is going on with this Red Sox organization. Now, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of this team. I haven't been lately because of the way that I think that Chaim Bloom is running the team. You guys know, if you heard me before, if you didn't, I was hugely against letting go of Bogarts. I understand that you got Marcel Mayer in the waiting, up and coming in the minor league system and everything like that. But I felt like it was a horrible decision to move on from Xander after already moving on from Mookie Betts. And now you see Xander over there on the Padres playing shortstop well defensively, which seemed to be the only reason people could give me as to why they could move on from Bogarts and it would be okay for this Red Sox squad, was because he wasn't that good defensively as a shortstop. Well, it looks like he's doing fine now out with the Padres and hitting well as well. So you got the Red Sox who are kicking the ball all over the field. Errors. They had 3 errors in one inning in the game the other night against the Cleveland Guardians, a team that they should not be. I still think that this team should be good enough to beat teams like the Cleveland Guardians on a regular basis. Now, obviously, the pitching staff has fallen apart. Largely because, Chris Sale can't be counted on to play through an entire season without getting hurt. You kind of, moved on from some pitchers who are now doing great. Nathan Eovaldi doing great for the Texans there, and the Rangers, sorry. And Michael Wacha is doing great for the Padres. He just had another shutout the other night. Those guys were just both the players of the week a couple of weeks ago, which was funny to see. So the team doesn't have really the players on the pitching staff. The bullpen got a little bit better, but it's had its speed bumps as well and ups and downs. And, you got players being hurt, players going down, called back up. But it leads me to the storyline with this Matt Dermody guy. I don't even know who the hell is this guy, first of all. I had never heard of him beforehand. It seems like nobody's really high on him as actually being a good pitching prospect. It seems like this is a complete emergency start. Just throw somebody out there who's a lefty. I think this guy's a lefty, and Cleveland doesn't do as good against lefties, so throw him out there, see what can happen. But I feel like there should be anybody else that they could bring up, especially at this time when they're starting to go back down. You did have a couple of weeks of really good baseball out of this team. They were scoring a ton. Their pitching actually came out of nowhere and was doing really well. The defense has been interesting the whole time, but now you got this Matt Dermody guy coming up here. And again, I'm pre-recording this, so who knows how good he did in this matchup against the Guardians. But honestly, after hearing the things about this guy, I hope he got shelled. I hope he got shelled because he went out, and if you haven't heard it already, basically what came out was he went on Twitter and started going off in a very religious tone, being very homophobic, and I'm not going to get into the exact comments that he said. If you want to go look it up, go and find out for yourself. But he was very homophobic in comments that he made on tweets that he made. And I think it was a year or two ago that this ended up happening. But he, went hardcore out there. And this is one thing that I've kind of always known about baseball. I know that they're a little bit weird. The players are a little bit weird to me. And sometimes they're a little overly religious with their values and their thoughts. And for that, I am not saying that you shouldn't be that way. I think you should be however you want to and think whatever you want to. But I do think you have to have a little bit of common sense, especially if you're going to be a professional athlete, but really in any walk of life, any professional walk of life, have some common sense to keep those thoughts to yourself. Why do you have to put them out there in the Twitter sphere or the social media world or any of that kind of stuff? I'll always question this. I feel like I've done this multiple times on this show now, where it's just a player putting their foot in their mouth for no reason. I don't see why you have to go out there and throw your opinions in other people's faces on a large social media type platform. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why even do that? Why go through that? Especially now as we're getting into a day and age where, okay, before, when social media was first starting to come up, yeah, sure, people would put their foots in their mouth because they didn't really know the impact that they would have. They didn't really know the amount of people that would see what they're actually talking about. And that's actually what this Matt Dermody guy tried to use as an excuse for what was going on. He said he didn't really have a grasp on the whole social media thing, and Twitter specifically. He didn't really understand how many people were going to see this, which to that I say, are you dumb? Are you just dumb? I don't understand. Any professional athlete, anybody who's going to be out there in the limelight, in the spotlight, they're going to pull up all your old stuff really quickly. And this one wasn't even that far back. This is only, like I said, a year or two. I think it happened maybe in 2021, where he made these comments. And the Red Sox came out and they said, we thought it was really important that he take down the post, obviously, and that we are creating an inclusive environment for everyone. That's what they're going with. And this is during Pride Month, no less. And it's just all at a very bad time for the Red Sox to be doing this. And it makes me question, why even bring up a guy like this? Is there no one else that you could bring up? Again, I'm not as in tune with the season yet. I'm going to get more into it as we go on into the summer, because I usually just wait till the end of the NBA season, and the Celtics took a lot out of me with the problems that they caused in my life from watching that team, staying up and dying with that team. But now it's time to get into baseball a little bit more for me personally, and I'm sure a lot more casual fans of baseball to really get into it. And you have your Red Sox team who's starting to go downhill. And on top of it, you bring up a guy like this, it's just going to bring a bunch more headaches and issues for people to talk about. People like me who are just going to talk about the nonsense that is this guy being involved with this organization. And from what I can tell, just using an excuse of, I didn't really understand that people were going to see it this much. That's your big line of thought when it comes down to what you said here, which, again, think what you want, be who you want to be. I fully endorse everyone doing that and feeling whatever way they want to feel about whoever. I still think that you shouldn't think negatively against anyone else for what they're choosing to do in their own lives. What does that have to do with you? I still don't understand that part. And we're not trying to get political here or anything crazy. I'm not trying to stand on a soapbox about this stuff. But especially as an athlete, how are you dumb enough to put something like this out there? Just keep it to yourself. I'll never understand that. So you've got this guy, Matt Dermody, who, once again, I hope he goes out there and gets shelled. But again, I don't know what he did. And nobody's talking about him as if he's some kind of like really good pitching prospect or anything like that. So I don't understand why he's even in the mix at this point. And then you look at it from a perspective of the way that this pitching staff is beaten up. Is he going to actually make another start? Because I believe next week, when he would be set up to start again on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever it is, that's going to be pride day for the Red Sox. So you're gonna get so much crap thrown at you that you just don't need right now. You got guys like Alex Verdugo not hustling to second base on plays, so he's getting sat down by Alex Cora. Alex Cora's on the hot seat because the team isn't doing as good as they thought it would do, and it's starting to implode on them in this part of the season. They have a chance to go under 500 for the first time in a long time, it feels like. They are falling apart in a lot of aspects, and it's just throwing this into the fire. It makes no sense to me for the Red Sox organization. So I get it. They wanted to make sure that this guy apologizes, that he goes out there and he does all the right things. And that's good. I think that you should try and do that with your players. You should try and guide them towards the right decisions. But why even give yourself this extra headache at this point? I don't understand it. I never will. I'll never get players who go out there and put these crazy thoughts out on social media. You can't, I don't think that you can be that dumb. Maybe you are. But the excuse of, I didn't think that many people were going to see it. I didn't really understand how Twitter worked or social media worked. I mean, dude, there's no way that you're too young to have that excuse. It's just impossible at this point for you to do something like that. So, like I said, you also have the story about Verdugo getting benched. For not hustling, because that's what kind of an attitude he has as a player. That's what he does sometimes. So, hey, try and go out there and shock him by benching him for a game. Maybe he'll turn it back up, because at the beginning of the year, he came out mashing the ball. He was doing crazy things all over, and now he's getting errors, not running out plays, doing whatever, the opposite of what you want him to do, basically, which I thought it was funny because on social media, you saw a lot of people starting to bring up, oh, look at Alex Verdugo's numbers versus Mookie Betts. They're basically identical. Actually, Verdugo's is a little bit better, and blah, 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 and trying to make it seem like they actually got something out of that trade. Newsflash, you didn't. You didn't get enough. You let go a top-tier talent who's now still playing really well for the Dodgers, by the way. So you lost him. In Mookie Betts, you lost Xander Bogaerts. I don't know. It doesn't inspire confidence in your team, that's for sure. And then you throw into the mix at this time of the year when they're starting to go downhill. A Matt Dermody. Who the hell is this Matt Dermody guy? And why do you even have to throw him into this situation? Unless you're just trying to stay in the headlines, which it's working, I don't even really understand why you would go out there and do that. But like I said, most of the show is going to be about the Patriots. We are going to bring in Andrew in a little bit here to talk all about them. Other things that happened, obviously, the Celtics got bounced from the playoffs. That was terrible. And now you got players around the league being cut, like Chris Paul, which is an interesting one. And it brings up scenarios where, is that the type of player that the Celtics should be going after? Who should they be subtracting from this team? Who should they be adding to this team? What should be happening? So that is going to be a part of the offseason for us. We're going to be diving into what we think the Celtics should do. And then also you have the other storyline right now where Bruce Cassidy is up 2-0 as of this recording for me in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Florida Panthers, the team that bounced the Bruins in the first round, and Bruce Cassidy has a 2-0 lead. I'm not going to write the Panthers off because obviously they've proven in this playoff run that they can come back from a deficit, but for a guy who was very against getting rid of Cassidy and then had to kind of eat his words during the season because they had the miracle, crazy, record-breaking season, only to get bounced in the first round of the playoffs because it seemed like your coach didn't really have the right moves to make, or he wasn't willing to make a move at the right time. I'm talking about switching up goaltenders earlier on in the series, then waiting until Game 7 to do it. I'm not going to tell you that Bruce Cassidy would have made that decision and changed the goaltender. Maybe it would have been the same thing. Maybe the whole situation would have been the same. But I am going to say right now that Bruce Cassidy is in the best position that he could be for getting back at the Bruins right now if he is able to win this Stanley Cup. Not only was he thrown off of this team, fired from this team basically because the players didn't like him because he was too mean for the players, DeBrusk specifically I'm talking about, but all of them, they all said that. Now he's gone over and he's made a Vegas Golden Knights team into a possible champion, and I know they've been to that area. They've gotten close to that before, but they now have a chance, a 2-0 lead in a series where they should win this thing. Who knows what's going to end up happening? I'm rooting for Cassidy because I like him as a coach, but he could now go out there after being let go from the Bruins because he was too mean, basically, to now going and leading a Vegas Golden Knights team to a possible championship against the team that bounced out the Bruins in the first round. I mean, talk about it all, being a storybook ending for Bruce Cassidy if he's able to pull that whole thing off. So for him, I'm rooting for it too. I want him to win. I wanted Bruce Cassidy to win if the Bruins weren't going to, because I do like him as a coach. And again, I don't know if things would have been different with this team. It might just be that the Bruins are just not good enough to win. They were never going to be anything other than, front runners, I guess. I don't know, regular season talents, the Peyton Mannings of hockey. It felt like, this team has been. So I don't know what you're going to get out of next year's run. I don't know what Montgomery is going to be like in year 2 as a coach. And I don't know if Cassidy's going to win this thing, but man, he is set up for the perfect situation, the perfect storm for him. All right, so now we're going to switch things up. We're going to go over to the Patriots. I'm going to bring in Andrew. We're going to do that, and we're going to talk all about that for the rest of the show. So I hope you're ready for it. And then we will start talking about these other teams again in the future for the rest of the summer. So here we go. All right, we bring in now my good friend Patriots _ Andrew back onto the podcast and show to talk everything Patriots. We are getting to that time of the year, and we just got did dirty by both the Celtics and the Bruins, and the Red Sox don't look that much better. So Andrew, first of all, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. And secondly, are the Patriots going to be the team to turn things around in New England and actually give us a little bit of hope?
I mean, they're kind of the only option at this point, right? After what we just saw out of the other two.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's bad. The way that the Celtics went out. To me personally, it's even worse the way the Bruins went out. And now, the Red Sox don't look good. So, what are we going to do? We're going to lean on the Patriots like we always do. And we're starting to get good reports. I mean, I feel like every year we start to get good reports around this time of year, but we're starting to get good reports about the team, the chemistry. We're seeing, videos and different things. Mac Jones obviously passing to wide receivers like Tyquan Thornton and seeing what else he could do. You had the big Patriots draft where it felt like maybe they did a few good things in there and got some hopefully cornerstone pieces for the future. So just to kind of start the conversation off about the draft, I know you love to dive in deep on it. If you guys follow along, Patriots _ Andrew, he gives a ton of good information about these players and these picks before they happen. But overall, what would have been the grade that you would give for that Patriots draft? I know we're going back a little bit now, but I haven't been able to talk to you yet about it. So what would you give them for a grade overall from the picks that you saw?
Well, it's always tough to give these things a grade right when they happen because, none of us really know. Like, I always like to point back at the Seattle Seahawks, a little over 10 years ago. They had a draft. They had Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson, and I think they got one other cornerstone piece in that draft as well. They got Neff, right? Get two guys that might be Hall of Famers on there. And it's enough. So, nobody really knows anything at this point. You're just going off of what these guys were in college, so everything's a projection. That being said, if I had to give a grade for it, I'd probably go with a B, just because I think the Christian Gonzalez pick, I don't know how he lasted that long. I think he's a top 10 talent in that class. So the fact that they got him, I was already all set right there. That was enough for me for the draft. But on top of that, another guy that could have snuck into the back of round 1, getting Keon White at 46 was huge. I loved some of the high upside picks, like round 6, Keishon Butte from LSU. That is a lot more talent that he has than should be available. Obviously, he had some injury and off-field stuff, but I love making those high upside swings on day 3 because it's pretty much hopes and dreams at that point anyways. And I'd say the real only criticism I have is I really thought they could have got a tight end given how deep that class was and the fact that Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry are both in the final years of their deals. So that would be the one knock I'd give them. But overall, I'm very happy with what they did.
Yeah, it seemed like there were going to be possibly a couple of tight ends at least near that top or even into the second round, possibly, that it sounded like, a couple of decent guys in there. But like you said, Christian Gonzalez falling to us at 17 at that point, and after the trade back and everything, which, shocker that they did that, surprising that the Patriots would do something like that. But it seemed like they kind of, the way things worked out and the way the reports were coming out, the Patriots were maybe between like those top three remaining cornerbacks. Obviously, Christian Gonzalez was at the top, but they would have been satisfied if a couple of the other guys were there too. Do you think that there's anything to be said about Christian Gonzalez falling back, about him specifically? Do you think it's just teams and their needs that they had, or was there like a specific reason that you could think of that why he would fall that deep?
For me, I think a lot of it was just the way the teams picking in front of the Patriots were structured. The only real head scratcher was the Commanders taking Emmanuel Forbes at 16 instead of taking Christian Gonzalez. I think that in a couple of years we're going to look back at that like we did with Philly and the Vikings taking Jalen Reagor right in front of Justin Jefferson. I think it's going to be that level of a blunder. That's why the Commanders are the Commanders. But yeah, I don't really see anything with Christian Gonzalez that would justify him falling that far. I mean, you could point to he's not the most physical tackler too, but in today's game with how the explosive passing attacks, especially in the AFC and the Patriots division, if you're drafting a corner to tackle, you're kind of missing the point. You need them shadowing these top receivers, and you take whatever you get in the tackling game personally.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And we'll see how things go. It seems like he's going to be a good cover guy. And I don't know if he's going to be, a lockdown kind of guy, but something that can just upgrade that group that obviously we knew going into the draft or going into the offseason, you needed to make sure that that was a solid group going forward, especially against some of the quarterbacks you're going to have to face, even in the AFC East, let alone just the whole AFC in general. So that's a good thing that they were able to shore that up along with the picks from last year. Hopefully Jack Jones can, continue to progress. We got some of the other guys as well. So is it safe to say that, Christian Gonzalez is your favorite pick, or what was your favorite pick of the draft for the Pats?
Definitely Christian Gonzalez, because if you had asked me beforehand, I would have said no chance that guy's available outside of the top 10. I thought was CB1 in the class. I had him above Devin Witherspoon. I would have been comfortable even taking him in the top 8 picks. I think he's that level of a prospect. So I'm ecstatic to get a legitimate blue chip player who's, he might not be a lockdown guy year one, but he certainly has that type of potential.
Right. No, I love that. And hopefully he's a guy for years to come that we can rely on, another number 0 in the Boston sports world that hopefully is going to dominate and hopefully not fall apart in the playoffs. But, that's a whole nother thing. We've got the favorite pick out there, though. What was your least favorite pick? There had to be one where you were head scratching or something. I can think of at least one right now off the top of my head. What would you say was your least favorite pick for the team?
So I had 2 that initially I was kind of scratching my head on. There's nothing I really hated, but initially in round 3 when they took Marty Mapu, I don't even know if I just said his name right, but a kid out of Sacramento State. I thought he was initially drafted as a safety, and I'm I just don't see him, being that caliber of player to go round 3 as a safety. Just because I had watched him a little bit, I typically watch anybody that the Patriots cover at the Senior Bowl because that's the guys they typically go after, those and the Shrine Bowl guys. Ever since then, he's been introduced as a linebacker. He's listed as a linebacker, so. Okay, now I kind of see the bigger picture. They're going to go away from that big thumper linebacker type and get the more modern, smaller guy who's fast and can cover. The other pick was when they had that run of 3 interior offensive linemen at the start of round 4. I was scratching my head a little bit there too, because I'm hey, there's still some tight ends there. What are you guys doing here? And if anything, you need a tackle more so than you need anybody on the interior. I guess they're going to move one of those guys over to tackle. They think he can play there. He started some games as a freshman in college at left tackle, so seeing the big picture there too. I've kind of come around on both of those picks, but initially I was scratching my head on them for sure.
Yeah, no, it seems like that. Yeah, whatever his name, Mapu or what, I don't know how. We'll learn later if he becomes a real cog in the machine, but it seems like they're trying to get that hybrid Yeah, like you said, originally he was considered a safety. Now he's more a linebacker. They want to get more of those guys out there fast enough, but big enough that they can tackle too. So we'll see how that works and how it works with the secondary. I'm hopeful about the defense and the secondary overall, and then we'll see what the linebackers look like. But I mean, for me, as far as least favorite pick, once again, the fact that they actually technically traded up and got a kicker, right? They go out there and they get the kicker in, what was it, the 5th round or something like that. I don't know why we're doing that again. It just kind of brings me back to what was that guy's name? Ross something. Ross Wood. I can't even pronounce that guy's name. That we went back there and got, and it's like, what the heck are you even doing there? So I don't know. I get it. Like once you get into the end of the rounds, like you said, you're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall or whatever. You're trying to get value, but I don't know. They haven't had good luck with that as far as I'm concerned, and at least in recent years. So we'll see how that goes. But the question now becomes, now we're getting into these, training camps, OTAs, all that kind of stuff, and we're getting towards or closer to the beginning of the season. We're starting to see, obviously, you got Bill O'Brien that was brought in. The offense is going to look a lot different. You got Mac Jones getting, I guess a couple of weapons. You got Gesicki, like you mentioned. Hopefully Hunter Henry will be better now when you have the actual offensive mind of Bill O'Brien, who likes to go with mismatches and things like that. You got Tyquan Thornton looking like he's starting to be a little bit better, at least from what we've seen so far. You got your guy Butte from the 6th round, who might be maybe, hopefully, something. Do you think that the Patriots did enough to help Mac Jones going forward into this year to get him back closer, at least to that rookie year season? Or do you think that they still needed to do more?
As far as getting him back to what he was as a rookie in that trajectory, yeah, they probably did enough. And a lot of it is not really roster stuff. It's more coaching. They brought in Adrian Clem, who's going to be, a huge boost for the offensive line compared to Matt Patricia doing that while assuming play calling duties as well. Bill O'Brien versus Matt Patricia in play calling, that's night and day. I don't even think I really need to get into that. I mean, it's pretty clear what they're trying to do with some of the moves that they made. Like Gesicki, he's more of a mismatched beach, like you said. He's just going to go up the seam. He's fast, vertically, so he can stretch the field that way, along with Thornton. Juju, he's not everybody's favorite. He's not a number one by any means, but he's able to offer a lot more after the catch than Jacoby Myers did. He's faster. He's more explosive. He's bigger, stronger, breaks more tackles. So I think that is going to be significantly better, I guess, in terms of like just moving the chains. He's not the guy who's going to be, going down the field as your big play receiver. But that also brings us to, I'm sure, who you want to talk about next as a wide receiver. I'll let you bring it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, and just quickly before I do bring that up, because I haven't really heard your opinions on it yet. Obviously, they went away from Jacoby Myers. They bring in Juju. Like you said, it's kind of an upgrade a little bit. Were you upset with the way that they did that? Do you think that they should have given Jacoby another shot, or were you ready to move on from him at that point?
I was ready to move on because for a few reasons. One, like I knew that the Patriots needed to make an upgrade there, and I felt like if they re-signed Jacoby, they weren't going to make an upgrade there. Granted, I was hoping for a bigger upgrade than Juju, but Juju is an upgrade there. I just thought that the wide receiver room would be a little bit crowded if they re-signed Jacoby to bring in some of the guys that I had my eyes on for the offseason.
Right. Well, there you go. And eyes on. Rumors are flying. We got that typical tweet. I'm seeing this person's at Logan, or this person is showing up ready to be the next Patriot. The biggest rumor that's flying around right now is former Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Deandre Hopkins, who was released. And now it seems like there's at least a schedule for Hopkins to come in and meet with the Patriots. That obviously doesn't mean anything. The Patriots are obviously just going to kick the tires no matter what. They're going to be interested in every single wide receiver at this point or whatever, like they usually are. It doesn't mean this, that, or the other thing. So with the rumors about DeAndre Hopkins, that was one of the things I was clamoring for. Go out there and get yourself a number one option. He's been that in the past. Do you like the rumors? Do you think there's anything to it? Do you think the Patriots will actually go through with it? And do you want them to go through with it?
I hope the rumors are true, and I absolutely want them to go through with it. I think they should go through with it. Like we can look at Hopkins' age and say, hey, he's getting up there. He's going to be on the wrong side of 30. Yeah, sure. But a lot of these guys who are not Pro Bowl talents, but true elite all-pro talents, those guys will typically produce when they're 31, 32, 33. And Hopkins he has a game that's going to age a lot more gracefully because he's never really relied on explosive speed or athleticism or anything like that. He's just like a big, strong, physical guy with a huge catch radius. He knows how to just be physical at the top of his routes to get open. He's never been like an elite separator. That's just not his game. So it's going to age gracefully. He can continue to, just put up big numbers the way that he has for his whole career for probably, another year or two. He's not going to be what he was in his early 20s with Deshaun Watson in Houston, but the Patriots also don't need him to be. They just need a reliable guy who's going to dictate coverage. And even if he's not putting up, 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns, and, 90 catches, whatever, just the fact that he's dictating coverage, that's going to give Mac Jones so many more answers before the snap. It makes it so much easier for a cerebral quarterback like Mac to look and see what the coverage is going to be and be like, okay, I'm going to go away from Hopkins here, but because he's there, because they're rolling coverage towards him, I now know what they're playing and I have a mismatch over here.
Right.
So I think they should absolutely be in on him. I think, like most things, even though they're saying, hey, he wants to go to a contender, I think it's going to come down to money. The Patriots can offer him more. I know Bill Belichick, he's always raved about how much he likes DeAndre Hopkins. He was similar in that regard to Odell Beckham, and a few years ago before he ended up signing with the Rams, the Patriots actually offered the most money. So that might be signaling like a little bit of a changing of the guard for Bill, and the fact that like, hey, you got to spend up to get some of these guys now. That's what the league is. So we'll see what happens, but I think they should absolutely be in on him.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't worried about some regression. Obviously, it's hard to tell off of this last couple of seasons, especially last year with Kyler Murray getting hurt for them. You didn't really know what you were going to have. Hopkins going through things and being off the field as well. I agree. I mean, the player himself, just the catch radius alone, being able to be another red zone target for him. Maybe he's not the burner off the line. Obviously, we don't need that. If you got somebody like Tyquan Thornton that can step up into that role, hopefully for him. I wonder if the Patriots are going to go after them. I think that the history shows that even if Belichick loves the player, he's not going to go after him. I go all the way back to one of my favorite players, if not my favorite NFL player of all time, Ed Reed. Belichick absolutely loved him, raved about him, ranted, all this stuff. Had an opportunity to sign him towards the end of his career and said, nah, I'm not going to do that. You said the Odell Beckham thing. He's done it with receivers and defensive players alike. So I'm wondering if he's actually going to do it. I'm wondering because this was the thing that I was most worried about going into this offseason, is Bill or the team going to take it as, okay, we got Bill O'Brien. That's a big enough of a change. I don't need to go out there and go get you a number one wide receiver or anything like that. Keep working with what we got. The run game, the defense, the wide receivers will get a little better, and I'm going to give you Bill O'Brien. That should be enough. I'm hoping that that's not the thought process, but I mean, I can't think of anything else now that we've gotten to this point in the offseason, and they still haven't gone out there and tried to get a number one guy. So I'm hopeful that they can go after a guy like Hopkins. I don't really know how much he's going to have left. I hope he has enough to give, but I am worried that they thought that it was just going to be like, okay, bring in Bill O'Brien. That's going to change a ton, and we'll be fine. Do you think there's anything to that, or were you worried about that going in the offseason like me? Because I hate that thought process.
I'm absolutely worried about that, and I agree with you. I hate that thought process too. Like I did just say a few minutes ago, I think it's going to be a huge boost, and that's enough to get him back to the trajectory he was on in 2021. I don't think it's enough to make them a legitimate contender, not by a long shot. There's just too much firepower in the AFC. I mean, it's a gauntlet. Even their own division's a gauntlet. I think one thing that I think Bill has to look at, Bill Belichick, not O'Brien, is look at the quarterbacks in your division, right, and how they progressed. Josh Allen wasn't really good for 2 years. He was, pretty abysmal. But then they went out and got him Stephon Diggs in year 3, and what happened? Turned into a complete stud. Tua kind of had an up and down first 2 years. And what they do? They drafted Jalen Waddle, and they went out and got Tyreek Hill. How'd that go last year? Max in year 3 right now. What are you going to do for him to bring him to that next level,
Yeah, no, it's a huge factor. You've seen it all over the league. Burrow and all these other guys who go out there and they get him a number one wide receiver for legit, and they come through heavily for that. So you hope that that's going to be the case. You hope Hopkins can be the guy, but like you said, the division itself is tough. The AFC is tough. You saw the schedule that came out. That's not looking that great for the team either. I mean, obviously, we don't know what teams are going to look like till we get into the season, but going in, first schedule report and everything like that, they have Patriots over under at 7.5 wins. So I got to ask you, after seeing the schedule, after seeing, and now you got a little bit more of a glimpse of the offseason, what they're doing in practice and things like that. Do you think they're going over 7.5 wins, under 7.5 wins? Where are you at with the team total going into the season?
So I actually, pretty much as soon as that line came out, I actually bet the over on that. So I was waiting for that. I was expecting it to actually open at 8, so getting 7.5 was great.
That's nice. Yeah.
A lot of people can look at it and say, "Oh, the schedule's tough," which it is, and say, "Oh, they weren't good last year," which they weren't. But I would point to last year and even 2020 as being reasons for optimism. I mean, last year they had a non-functional offense. The probably league worst special teams. I mean, how many times were they running into the punter, giving up return touchdowns, stuff like that? They were just completely awful most of the time last year, except for the defense.
Yeah.
And they still won 8 games. They still grinded out 8 wins, and they were very, very close to, that could have very easily been 11 wins. They were a couple plays away, and they weren't even good, and this is also, they were down to a backup quarterback for a couple of those games as well. You go back even to 2020, that was probably 3 win, like that roster, probably 3 wins. Anywhere else?
Yeah.
Bill squeezed 7 wins out of that team in a year when I thought he should have tanked and gone after Trevor Lawrence, but that's a discussion for another day. So with all those things, I just don't see how they won't win 8 games regardless, of what their schedule looks like or the division. Because one thing we can say about the Patriots, pretty much every year since Belichick has been here, they've always kind of been greater than the sum of their parts.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a typical year if you ask me. I think they're going to lose to teams that they shouldn't lose to. I think they're going to win against some teams that they shouldn't probably win against on paper. I think that's just going to be how it goes. Battle of a season, D'ing up, run game, all that kind of stuff. They're going to want to keep it close, but I don't know how you feel about that. But it just feels like that's going to be the type of team that they're going to be once again. So I'm ready for a battle. I'm ready for a battle of a season. I do think over 7.5. That was before all this other stuff too. We'll see how things go. But now you got a team, and you got obviously players getting moved around. Jets got much better with Aaron Rodgers. We don't know how the Tua situation is going to go down in Miami. Do you feel like the Patriots are rightfully so the bottom team in the division right now?
I mean, yeah, they kind of have to be. I mean, you could maybe make the argument that it's the Jets just because it's like you have to show me, and because the Jets finished last year. I'll tell you though, I'm not quite as high as the whole Aaron Rodgers thing to the Jets as everybody else seems to be, for a couple of reasons. One, he's 40 years old. He got hurt last year, had to miss some time last year. That's part of getting older. Like when everyone says, "Oh, Father Time's undefeated," it's not just that your skills decline, which he's looked to have done a little bit last year. He's still an upgrade over Zach Wilson for sure. He's still pretty good, but a lot of it is you get hurt a lot easier. You don't recover nearly as quickly, and when you do, you're not the same. I think they might even come out to a hot start, but I would be willing to bet, and I actually have a gentleman's agreement bet on this with one of my friends, that they're going to fall apart down the stretch in December, January. That's just how I see it unfolding. I mean, you also have to look at the fact that Aaron Rodgers has openly considered retirement for a couple of years. So how committed is he really? He has a reputation, deserved or not, for being a little bit of a diva with the media stuff. New York media is not exactly the easiest, out there in the league. And I'll look at too, like, outside of swapping out, Garrett Wilson for Christian Watson or vice versa, and obviously that is an upgrade, it's not really like that great of a supporting cast compared to what he had, in Green Bay, like, you brought Allen and Lazard with you, but like in Green Bay, he didn't have enough weapons, but you're bringing all those guys, Randall Cobb as well, from Green Bay. So it's like it's kind of the same group plus Garrett Wilson. So I'm not totally sold that like they're as loaded as everybody thinks. I think if they're going to win the same way the Patriots are, mostly on defense. But I will say, as far as how it's going to shake out, or I guess I'll ask, how much does it change your projection if DeAndre Hopkins signs with the Patriots tomorrow?
I mean, I would obviously feel better. Don't get me wrong, because we don't know. We have no idea if he's going to walk in and be great right out the gate. We also don't know if his regression is going to happen. He's not going to be that good. But I'll feel good knowing that they tried to make the wide receiver group better, so they understood the problem with the team. You need to bring in somebody. And B, I think that if you just get more weapons, at least in the beginning, that are going to be able to draw coverage, kind of like what you said, it's just going to make things better overall. Now, I don't know how long Hopkins is going to be able to be good on this team, if he will, whatever. I am a little bit worried about that. And first of all, we have to get him. I'm talking like if he does, right? But first of all, you have to go get him. But will he mix? The Bill O'Brien stuff is still there. They don't like each other, right? So we'll see how things go. I would have to say that I would feel much better if they went out there and got him. And I feel like it would start changing our chances. I'm right there with you a little bit with the Aaron Rodgers stuff. It's more of a hope, though. I hope that the media there just destroys him, and he's just like, why am I even doing this again? I hope he goes off on an ayahuasca retreat or something and just decides, you know what, screw football. I'm ready to go be a butterfly in the nature or something. I don't know. I want something like that to happen, obviously. I also still don't know how Tua's going to react after last year with all the head injuries and things like that. What's he going to look like? What's Miami going to look like? So I have faith and hope that the team is going to be better than the last place team in the AFC East, but on paper, I still have to say right now that they're down there. And if you got Hopkins, I'd feel a little bit better, but I don't know if it would change that much right out the gate until I can really see what he's able to do with the team. So.
Yeah, and I mean, all those are totally fair points. I will say one thing on Hopkins, just because I did a deep dive on him, because, that's what I do. I nerd out about this stuff. In games with Kyler Murray last year, during that whole span, he led the entire league in receptions and was fourth in yards. And that was him outside of the first game that he came back. He predominantly lined up in the slot. Other than that, he was outside for the most part. I think there's, for the Patriots standpoint, kind of a lot of meat left in the bone with Hopkins if you want to slide him inside and create mismatches there. And I think that's a good way to extend his career, kind of like we saw with Larry Fitzgerald towards the end of his career. He was produced until he was like 38 or something absurd. I don't even remember. But I completely agree with you on the Jets thing. And like you said, Tua, and I'll ask this, and I'm only half joking, unfortunately, is Tua going to be the first NFL player the first active player to ever be diagnosed with CTE?
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, we don't want to joke about this kind of stuff, but in all honesty, I mean, how can you not think that after the multiple concussions last year, he's been prone to it already? It's the one last year that he had where we don't want to go back to it, but, his arms and everything and all, that was like a horrific looking concussion. And obviously, he's able to come back and he's going to be still, I would think, decent, but man, how quickly is he going to get taken out if one or two hits? What's that going to do to him? You hope the best. You never wish for injury, but yeah, I mean, he probably is. He probably already has CTE the way he's been getting hit. Those things have been vicious.
His last concussion towards the end of the year, he didn't clear concussion protocol for like 3 months. Like that,
Crazy.
That is absurd.
Yeah,
I don't know. I honestly think he should probably retire. Like, I understand like the competitive nature that these guys have, that to get to that level, like the way you're wired, you're not going to be able to quit,
Yeah.
But for his health, like it's concerning, like being in the concussion protocol for several months, it's kind of indicative that like, hey, maybe there's kind of something already there. And like you said, the one before that with the posturing with his hand, just, I don't know. You gotta, like you said, you don't want to see injuries, and that's kind of part of it. It's like, I don't want to see this guy like go out on a stretcher, So it's
right.
I don't know.
maybe we got to get him to talk to Andrew Luck. I mean, I'm not putting him on the same level of where Andrew Luck was or what his projections were going to be, but you got to, I don't know, look at it as, and again, this is probably just going to come off as like, oh, you guys are just Patriots fans. Of course you want him to retire, but it's like, man, you got to think about your health too. There's no, like, you do have to live a life after football at some point here. And I don't know, man, that it's a dangerous game, and you gotta think about that kind of stuff. Well, so we'll see how this season goes for him. You hope that he doesn't have to go out that way, but man, I just after last year, it just doesn't seem like it can end any other way. Something's going to happen if he keeps pushing it. So, especially with the way he plays, it's not like he's sitting back there trying to keep the pocket and stay protected the whole time. He's going to try and move around. He's got a little bit of that run game in him, so he's going to put himself in a position where he could get hurt. And you hope that that's not the case, but. So that's another quarterback in the league in the division. Like we said, you got Aaron Rodgers in the division. You got Josh Allen. You got the AFC that's got a bunch of dominant quarterbacks. So I've been looking into these things. Everybody's been ranking the quarterbacks, how they're going to be this year, who's going to be where. I was looking up, Chris Sims was doing his rankings and everything like that. I think he has Mac Jones ranked as the 20th best quarterback in the league. So I want to know, where going into this season, where do you think Mac Jones stacks up as far as the quarterbacks in this league at this point? Do you think he's like a middle tier guy? Do you think he's deserves to be further back because we still don't know? Where do you have him at?
I mean, after the year that he had last year, which, I've spoke at length about how I feel about the causes for that, I don't think there's any way you can really put him, inside the top 20. I think 20 is probably right where he belongs until he gets out and proves it. That said, I think his rookie year, he was like on the borderline of like a top 15-ish quarterback. So hopefully if he can get back to that trajectory, my prediction is by the end of the year, we'll be talking about him as probably a top 12-ish quarterback. I really think that Bill O'Brien as an offensive coordinator is really just going to mesh well with exactly what Mac wants to do and the way Mac operates. He's a cerebral guy. He's obviously not the most physically gifted. And part of Bill O'Brien's offense is creating mismatches and giving him the answers pre-snap. So I think you're going to see a significantly improved version of him. He's going to be a lot more confident as well. Just, going in there knowing like, hey, everybody's on the same page. We all know what the play is. How many times last year was the play not coming in early enough and you're getting false start penalties? I mean, you're getting delayed game penalties. You get it was a mess. So I think just having a competent offensive coordinator is going to do wonders for Mac.
Yeah, it's got it. I mean, you nailed it there. The most frustrating thing about last season was seeing him, regardless of what you think about him complaining, bitching, whatever you want to say, him just being like, guys, I just need the play. All I want is the play. And then at least we can go and diagnose and change or whatever. Just give me the play in time. Give me some time here to be able to go out there. You couldn't even get that. So it's got to be better than it was last year. And I just want to see him. I understand you probably got to be ranked at the 20, maybe between that 20 to 25, depending on how you feel about him range. But I want to see him getting above those guys. Like you said, I don't know if he can get up to top 12 or something like that. I just want to see him get above the guys that are close to him. I'm talking about, the Derek Carrs, the Jared Goffs, the Ryan Tannehills, Geno Smith. Those are the kind of guys that are getting ranked around where Mac Jones is right now. I need to see you getting better than them. I need to see you making a step in the right direction. I'm not one of those guys that's saying, it's make or break right now. Mac Jones, either you have like a great season or we got to get rid of him kind of guy. But I do need to see a big jump forward to feel confident into the future. And I want to see a playoff win this year. I mean, I think we all do. I saw some people being I don't even know who the analyst was. Somebody said that they were going to win the AFC East, which I think that's kind of crazy, more than kind of crazy. But I want to see something. I want to see a step forward. Obviously, we all do. It's got to come from the offensive coordinator. It's got to come from Mac Jones taking a huge step forward. Hopefully, you can go out there and get a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. But if not, you got to figure out a way to take that leap forward. Will they be able to do it? We're going to find out. We're going to find out. So I don't know. I feel like it's going to possibly be another frustrating season, but I'm ready to battle. I'm ready to go to war with the team and watch some defensive run game style football once again. And maybe a little bit of passing. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, I agree with you. It's definitely going to be, a little bit of a battle of a year. Like, by all means, when I say I took the over on the 7.5 wins, like, I'm not projecting a 12-13 win team that's going to,
right.
cruise to the AFC Championship game or anything. But, even though it might not be significantly higher in terms of wins versus last year, I think just the overall quality of what we're watching is going to be a lot better. And, you're not going to be pulling your hair out every Sunday being like, what are we doing on offense? What is going on with the special teams here? Like, what is going on with this team with all the penalties and everything? Like, I think it's just going to be much easier and much more enjoyable to watch. And hey, maybe they only scratch out 8 or 9 wins. I think that's probably the range I have them in, but they definitely feel good about the roster. I think you can tell that by the lack of offseason moves. Really, they kind of re-signed a lot of their own guys as opposed to bringing in a ton of outside free agents. So I think outside of Juju and Gesicki, they really didn't do much, and obviously the tackles, but those guys aren't really long-term solutions anyways. So just the optimism that they seem to have about themselves, is refreshing, because even this time last year, coming out of OTAs and stuff, like, we were already starting to get some negative reports, people being like, what is going on here?
Yeah. No, that's very true. So optimistic. We're looking forward to it. I appreciate you coming on. Patriots_Andrew. If you guys aren't following him, like I said, he dives in deep into all the NFL stuff. He'll give you college updates, all that kind of stuff. So follow him, and we'll be having you on much more in the future to get back into the football season. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward to coming back on and looking forward to the start of training camp.
There we go. All right. That'll do it. Thanks, man.